Give us a brief introduction to who you are and a little bit about your company too.
I am Jean, the COO for D4M International. We have been in business now for over a decade, and with my team, we started up the company, and we now have operation in 3 countries, and we have operation in the U.S. We're based in the U.S. We have operation in Canada, U.S., Mexico, and in France. That has grown over the years, and again, we specialize in assisting a client with their SAP needs, whatever, if it's a rollout, a transition, or a migration. So we have full sets of services, assistance that we offer to our client worldwide. We focus a lot on the manufacturing industry, automotive, pharmaceutical, but there's many forms of manufacturing. But our focus has been mainly over the years the manufacturing industry, although we do obviously work with utilities and other industry.
So today we're talking about 60 and 60. And before we begin, let's just ask a couple of questions about this automotive manufacturer that you work with this project. So what can you tell us about Forcia and your relationship with them?
So we have been working with Forcia for over a decade, assisting them in a global transition from using several different ERP. It's a very successful company based in Europe, and they have been growing like it's the case most of the time with a lot of acquisition and generic growth. And that put them in a situation where they ended up running several ERP around the globe. So whatever you're talking about, SAP, QAD, they, over the years, ended up with a multitude of ERP. So we have been helping them not only with this project, that was the main undertaking, but we have been assisting them globally with their SAP needs. So in some case, it has been support, maintenance, rollout. So it took various forms over time.
Is Forcia tier 1 automotive or tier 2?
Oh, they are one of the largest top 5 worldwide part makers for automotive. So it's a corporation with operation in many countries around the world. So it's a global player, and they are in the top 5 or 6 in their industry worldwide.
So let's get into the brass tacks of what exactly 60 and 60 is. I hear this term a lot at D4M. So can you just give me an overview of what 60 and 60 is?
Basically what it is, it refers to the largest project we have been doing over the years, and the most ambitious project where for a client, we ended up helping them rolling a new ERP in 60 different locations over a period of 6 months. So that was a major undertaking where, again, over a period of 5 years, we were able to transition or migrate to an SAP ERP. So these are locations that had various ERP that were non-SAP. So it's pretty much 60 migration for 60 location on an SAP platform, which was quite an ambitious and large undertaking. This is what we refer to as the 60 over 60.
So again, the name 60 and 60 is referring to the amount of time and the amount of rollouts that the process takes, I'm assuming.
That's exactly correct. So we're talking about 60 rollout over 60 months. That's where it's coming from.
I know you've done this approach with some really large companies, but just out of curiosity, let's just say you wanted to take the implementation of 60 and 60 for smaller companies. Is said process limited to the size of the company and how many plants they have, or can anyone attempt this?
I think that this approach that we use, which is a systematic rollout planning and execution, it's applicable to any size corporation, but obviously it's more specifically applicable to company running several plants, Not necessarily in several countries. You could be a large, mid-sized corporation in the US with 5, 10 plants. It is applicable. I think basically any corporation in a situation where you're currently running several ERP in multiple location, and it doesn't have to be a large number. It could be 4 or 5 location that you acquired over the years, and for whatever reason, you're still running different ERPs. And the whole concept of streamlining is still applicable the same way.
Obviously, since we used 4C as an example, you've attempted this in a high-end automotive industry, but out of curiosity, have you attempted in the past to do it for any other industries other than automotive?
Yes, absolutely. The same approach is as good for any industry. I think it's based on a solid foundation of planning and execution. So I think we have done it in other industry, in several industries, as a matter of fact, and it's fully applicable. I think the approach and the idea and the objective for the corporation to streamline or standardize operation under one single ERP. It could be a different level of complexity depending on the industry, but it is clearly fully applicable to any industry.
As far as 60 and 60 is concerned, what makes this so special as an SAP rollout? Is it just more rollouts than the industry is used to? How exactly is it like the next step in SAP rollouts?
I think what is unique is the pace of the work and the time it takes to execute. A typical SAP rollout in the industry for manufacture would take much longer. People would take an approach that takes more time. Or in this case, specifically, the situation we have is, if I just pick an example, if you run an operation with 100 plants and you make a decision to migrate on the same platform 10 plants per year. So it would take 10 plants per year. If you have 100 location worldwide, it would take you 10 years, which from a business standpoint is totally not imaginable or acceptable for obvious reason. So what's unique, I would say here, is the pace of the work, the speed at which we execute. It requires a phenomenal, an outstanding type of execution to make this happen. So I think the time frame is short and the execution is highly efficient. Not to say that it's not efficient otherwise, but it does requires a level of discipline and execution that's extremely precise.
I know you answered this question in your answer just now, but just out of curiosity, so let's just say that a company that specializes in SAP rollouts were to try to attempt to do the 60 and 60 thing themselves and try to roll out multiple plants at the same time. So what are some words of advice that you would give said company if they were to try to attempt this or recreate it in some capacity?
I think there's probably 2 key advice I would say. The first one would be planning. I think it requires an excellent planning up front. So before you jump into execution, you need to step back, take a few months. I think it requires a very good planning up front, to say the least. You need to take some time for your plan, not too much, but I think it has to be extremely well planned as far as the sequence that you're going to do the task and which country you start first and how do you do your blueprint and all that. So it needs to be well planned.
What are some closing observations that you can impart about rolling multiple plants at once?
When you try to do this kind of a project, you may hear from the street or from the market in general that it's not doable. My advice to this is it has been done and it is doable.